This week on Jerusalem Dateline, facing death on the front lines. We go on patrol with Kurdish forces on the defense against ISIS. Plus, grading President Obama's performance during the Middle East implosion. Former presidential hopeful Mike Huckabee gives his scores. And planting seeds in the Holy Land. An Israeli organization woos Christian investors to support new businesses. Hello, I'm Chris Mitchell, and this is Jerusalem Dateline. We just returned from a week of reporting from northern Iraq. The radical Islamic force ISIS continues its violent sweep across the country and bears down on Baghdad. The government hopes the U.S. will order airstrikes and send troops to back them up. In the north, the militants are kept in check by the Kurdish military called the Peshmerga. The name literally means those who face death. I spent time with him patrolling the front lines this week in strategic Kirkuk. The battleground with ISIS includes small villages like this one next to the border. We joined the Peshmerga working with district Iraqi police right after a deadly incident. We're south of Kirkuk right now in a small village and just about a half a mile from ISIS forces. A little while ago, 2 bombs were set off, 2 policemen died. Now these forces are rounding up suspects and preparing to attack the ISIS forces.
We have information that people from outside this village came to destroy the situation here.
Moments after our interview, they called off the attack, but did take a number of suspects away. We drove out of the village on the way to a strategic Peshmerga checkpoint, most heavily armed like this policeman with his RPG. As we drove through the oil-rich area, you could see some of the refineries in the distance. When we arrived, we found the Peshmerga dug in, close to the front lines of ISIS. This is the end of the road for the Kurdish military. This is their last checkpoint. But if you look down the road here and see that bridge in the distance, that's the first checkpoint for ISIS and the beginning of the region and the area that they control. Soon, dozens of Peshmerga and Iraqi police strode past the checkpoint. They're headed to the village next door on a critical mission. What's happening now is that the Peshmerga, the Kurdish military, is going a house-by-house search in this village, which is just beyond their front lines, and they believe people here may be supporting ISIS.
Yes, surely, because down at the bridge we saw a teenager. They sent him to do something against us, but he hid himself.
But instead of a teenager, the Peshmerga and police uncovered 2 terrorists, one from Saudi Arabia, the other from Sudan, both on a wanted list. Our guide translates the confrontation.
His name exists in this list, that he's a terrorist, you know, and the officer says, you are wanted by our force. He says, no, I'm only wanted by God.
They arrested them along with a number of other suspects and took them away for questioning. In this ongoing battle, the stakes are high, particularly in Kirkuk. This is a very strategic region. Just a couple of weeks ago, the 12th Iraqi Division controlled this area. They left a vacuum for the Peshmerga, the Kurdish military, to fill. And now they control some of the richest oil fields in the Middle East. After June 10th, when the Iraqi army collapsed, the Peshmerga stepped in and saved thousands of lives, including many Christians. For example, they protected the village of Bartilla with 25,000 Christians. But many on the front lines expect it will get worse.
We expect that they want to fight. They would like to attack and fight against the Peshmerga, so we're expecting a bigger war.
Earlier in the day, back in Erbil, the Peshmerga Secretary General showed us on his map that now they must defend a 1,000-kilometer border with ISIS. That's more than 600 miles. They stand in the gap against this fanatical group and face a daunting challenge. But the Peshmerga say they're ready.
Surely it's dangerous, but the Peshmerga are ready to fight. We are ready to protect the Arab, Christians, Assyrians, and Turkmen. We are the people of Kirkuk and ready to sacrifice our life to the last drop of our blood.
Iraq's government is fractured and weak, while the Kurdish government in the north remains strong and stable. Some Kurds believe this could be their moment to make history and emerge as a free and independent state. The Maliki-led Iraqi government in Baghdad is weak. Its army has imploded in many places, and much of Iraq has disintegrated. Now some wonder if this is the time for the Kurds. This is the colorful open-air market in the heart of Erbil, with the historic citadel in the background. The Kurds have a long history, and now many feel they may be at the crossroads of independence and statehood.
Yes, surely, this is our old dream, a very old dream for us, for the whole Kurdish people. We would love to see it, and now is the right time for the Kurdish people to have their independent state. Yes, it's the right time, because the Iraqi people didn't accept us as Muslims, as Shiite or Sunni or as brothers. So because they didn't accept us as brothers, that time is over. And this is why I think it's the right time to declare an independent state for the Kurds.
The British and French established the current borders of Iraq after World War I, the famous Sykes-Picot Agreement. It's possible the current crisis will split Iraq into three regions: Sunni, Shiite, and Kurdish. Kurdish officials say declaring a state would be hard, but that they've earned the right.
The independence of Kurdistan is dependent on the real situation. I do believe that the path of getting independence is covered with mines. We cannot actually step into it. But the reality proves and shows the outside world that this nation is really worthy to get independence.
Former governor and presidential hopeful Mike Huckabee says a Kurdish state would be good for the region.
The Kurds really are the one group of people in all of Iraq that America should be grateful for and trying to help. They could create a stable government and a sensible, sane government. And I think we should do everything humanly possible to encourage at least one piece of that region to be stable.
It's a historic time for the Middle East. If the Kurds do declare a state, they'll begin to redraw the borders of a new Middle East. The drama surrounding the kidnap of 3 Israeli teenagers by Hamas terrorists continued to grip Israel as the search entered its 3rd week. And as CBN correspondent Julie Stahl reports, the boys' mothers are calling for the return of their sons.
Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, said on Thursday it knew within 24 hours that Hamas had abducted the 3 Israeli teens.
A short time after the kidnapping, I said that those who perpetrated this activity were terrorists of Hamas. And indeed, today, the security services of Israel has published the names of 2 of the perpetrators of this heinous crime.
Marwan Kawasme and Ammar Abu Aisha are known Hamas terrorists from Hebron. The 2 have a history of terror-related activity. They disappeared after the attack and are the chief suspects. The Israeli teenagers were waiting at a bus stop like this one for a ride home. But instead, Israel's security forces believe they were picked up by Hamas terrorists and driven south along this road to Hebron. As the search for the teens continued, Naftali Frankel's mother, Rachel, spoke on behalf of the other moms as she told of their anguish and appealed for help at the UN in Geneva.
My son texted me, said he's on his way home, and then he's gone. Every mother's nightmare is waiting and waiting endlessly for her child to come home.
Frankel thanked the UN, but said much more could be done to bring the boys home.
It is wrong to take children, innocent boys and girls, and use them as instruments of any struggle. It is cruel. This council is charged with protecting human rights. I wish to ask, doesn't every child have the right to come home safely from school?
The other moms are also speaking out.
We hope that these positive energies from all of you will make their way to our Gilad. Ayali, our heart is torn, our heart is broken, yet our heart will never stop believing.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called for action from Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas.
I now expect President Abbas, who said important things in Saudi Arabia, to stand by those words and to break his pact with a Hamas terrorist organization that kidnaps children and calls for the destruction of Israel.
Meanwhile, Israel is considering other measures, such as blocking Palestinian Authority's salaries paid to terrorists in Israeli jails. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Up next, with Iraq and Syria in flames, what role did the U.S. play? And what does it mean for Israel?
Millions of Americans with an ostomy live their lives to the fullest every day. And over the last 10 years, thousands have chosen Liberator Medical as their caring and reliable resource for ostomy supplies. Liberator Medical is a nationally accredited Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance provider, so we can handle all your Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance paperwork and billing. And Liberator Medical has been chosen as a preferred supplier by all the leading ostomy manufacturers, including Coloplast, Hollister, Convatec, and Generics. We supply all these leading ostomy brands, so you can always get the ostomy supplies and accessories you want and trust. And all of our ostomy care specialists are product certified by the manufacturers. Shipping is free and discreetly delivered right to your door. Unhappy with your present ostomy supplier? Call Liberator Medical and ask about our free ostomy sampling program. We also offer catheters and urological supplies.
Call 1-800-513-3076. That's 1-800-513-3076.
Pat Boone here with some good news you can trust. Today, our faith, families, and our freedoms are under attack. Polls say 2 out of 3 Americans no longer trust government. A stalled economy, weakening dollar, and politicians willing to steal money from our children to waste on unfixable problems. So, whom can you trust? Well, our money still says in God we trust. But do we? Or have we quietly allowed the things we hold sacred to be stolen by the enemies of traditional values? Today, our government spends almost twice its income, running up a tab for future generations into the hundreds of trillions. How can you stop this from happening to your family? Well, it's all covered in a fantastic new book, The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Dr. Lowell Ponte. Every American needs to read this book. Why don't you call now for a free copy of The Great Withdrawal? It's the simple truth you can trust.
Former presidential hopeful and Governor Mike Huckabee came to Israel this week. We sat with Huckabee to get his views on a number of issues, including the current situation in Iraq, the recent decision of the Presbyterian Church, and as Julie Stahl reported, the 3 Israeli teenage kidnapped boys. Governor, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Chris.
I see you have a yellow ribbon on here, and you visited the Frankel family, one of the 3 Israeli teenage boys that was kidnapped. What was your visit like?
It was a remarkable opportunity to visit with these incredibly resilient parents who are going through what has to be the worst nightmare any parent will ever face. The Frankels showed an extraordinary sense of resolve and strength and hope and optimism. They're people of great faith. They are living on the strength and the prayers of people from all over the world who find what happened to their sons to be absolutely just abhorrent. And the yellow ribbon is just a way to remind people around the world that we're not forgetting these boys. And one of them, particularly Naftali Frankel, is an American citizen. And this is why I want to make sure that Americans understand that one of us has been kidnapped.
And how do you think the Obama administration should be responding?
I want the president to speak out. I want him to speak out boldly. I want to hear it from John Kerry. I don't want to hear Jen Psaki from the State Department trot out this ridiculously idiotic, indefensible statement saying, we hope both sides will show restraint. Because I want to ask her, what are the 2 sides here? On one hand, you've got a kidnapped American citizen, and the other, you've got some evil, horrible people who would do it. What restraint on behalf of the child should be shown?
One other thing that's happened recently is the Presbyterians voted to divest from Israel. What's your reaction to their decision?
I'm embarrassed for the Presbyterians when they made this boneheaded decision to divest from Israel. I'm thinking of all the countries where they trample over human rights, where people are stoned for their sexuality, or perhaps they are mutilated because they're women. And do we hear the Presbyterians coming out and making that their priority? No. Who are they coming after? The only democracy in all the Middle East, the only place where women are treated as equals. Where else in all of the Middle East does that happen? One place, Israel. And what do the Presbyterians do? They make fools of themselves by this totally inexplicable decision to punish Israel. This is anti-Semitic racism is what it is, and they should be ashamed of themselves for it.
On the other hand, you said later today you're going to be visiting SodaStream. In what way do you see SodaStream as sort of a model or example of how things could work here?
SodaStream is a company that built a factory in Judea, a factory that used to make munitions for war. It is a great example of having taken the swords and beaten them into plowshares. They've taken the instruments of war, now they're making instruments of peace, they're making soda. Now, the interesting thing about SodaStream factory is they equally hire Arabs and Israelis. They work side by side, they get along, they even socialize together and have lunch together. And SodaStream, to me, is a great example of the kind of good business practice and good humanitarian effort that we should be applauding and awarding. Instead, you have organizations targeting them for boycotts and divestiture and sanction. This is crazy.
One of the bigger stories in the larger Middle East right now is ISIS and what's happening in Iraq. How do you see that ISIS poses a threat to U.S. allies like Jordan, Israel, and how should the administration be responding to this threat?
We really don't have a winner here because, I mean, do you like terrorist number one or terrorist number two? Who's our favorite terror group here? It's tragic that when we left Iraq, we not only pulled the troops, we pulled all the intelligence infrastructure out. We never saw this coming. We really don't have any way to participate. Even sending 300 advisors in puts them in harm's way. And whose side do we take? But what the United States needs to hope happens is that it's contained as much as possible within that area and that it does not spread across the Syrian and Jordanian borders to the point that then it becomes an imminent threat to Israel and that they have the possibility of exporting their terror, including their weapons, even to the United States. That needs to be our concern.
A lot of people have been asking you about 2016. What role does prayer play in your decision?
Well, for me it plays probably the single most important role because of all the pieces of the decision I have to put forth. Ultimately, it's a spiritual decision. If the politics look great, but my heart is not there and I can't find that peace that passes understanding, then it's a no-go.
Governor, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chris. Always great to see you.
Coming up, investing in Israel, encouraging Christians to support small business in the Jewish state.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need, just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is criticizing the Presbyterian Church USA. That group announced it will sell its stock in U.S. businesses operating in the West Bank. Netanyahu said Israel is the one democracy in the Middle East that protects human rights, including those of Christians. He said the vote should trouble all people of conscience because it was so, quote, disgraceful. And he had a recommendation for the Presbyterians.
You know, I would suggest to this Presbyterian organizations to fly to the Middle East, come and see Israel for the embattled democracy that it is, and then take a bus tour. Go to Libya, go to Syria, go to Iraq, and see the difference. And I would give them two pieces of advice. One is make sure it's an armor-plated bus, and second, don't say that you're Christians.
The Prime Minister also questions why Israel has been singled out for such treatment. Israel is proving to be a great place for business. That's the message leaders are sharing with Christian owners and investors from abroad. CBN Israel has been working to create opportunities in the Holy Land, helping Messianic Jews and Christian Arabs start their own businesses. More than 150 local believers joined nearly 40 foreign investors in Jerusalem recently for the Israel Business Forum. Yoel Shoshani is Executive Director of CBN Israel.
So the ultimate vision of what we're doing here is to really see the local believers grow and improve in their economic stand. We want to see business develop.
The Bible says that God will bless those who bless the Jewish people. Many business people are now coming to Israel and discovering new ways to do just that. Mordecai Wiseman of Israel First Fruits Center for Economic Advancement joined CBN Israel to make this event happen.
But when you come here and you see the sights and you meet the people and God speaks to you, touches your heart, something changes. And a lot of the investors just talk about recognizing that God is doing something new in them. It's not just about writing a check, it's about engaging fully.
There's great opportunity here for any investor, but I think more than just the opportunity, the quality and the caliber of the people here in Israel, it's worth investing into. And to top it all, I mean, you're investing into a land that God very much cares for.
Chris Morales has a photography business based in Germany. He says he wants to be a testimony that God's ways work even in business.
You can be honest, you can have integrity, and you can be profitable and successful, all while following God's principles.
Evan Lieberman is an Israeli investment consultant.
The Bible indicates that there's a great prosperity that's going to happen to Israel at some point. We're already seeing the first 60 years of the growth. It's phenomenal, not just from growing a nation, but growing the economy, growing businesses.
Software CEO Najd Assam is a Christian Arab from Nazareth.
The biggest value I see is to bring healing and unity to the body of Christ in the Holy Land through business.
Assam says when believing Israeli Jews and Arabs sit together to learn about business, they come to know each other on a personal level.
They know that there is a common thing between them more than just being Israelis, which is the love of Jesus Christ, and it brings them closer and closer together and reduces the gap that is created by media, by news and other means.
Shoshani says he wants to challenge Christian businessmen and others from abroad.
Come, experience, learn, and ask the Lord what your involvement needs to be.
When we return, the Healing Games. Our soccer camp helps the children of war.
Do you have an idea for an invention or a new product? Brian and Alice Jagosh, the inventors of the halftime drill driver, did. They invented a power drill attachment that lets you drill, flip, and drive in seconds. Brian and Alice licensed their invention to the company that brought you the Snuggie, and it's now selling in major retailers nationwide. Look for the Invent Help Caveman on the package. If you have an invention that you would like to try to patent and submit to companies for possible review and want free information on how InventHelp may be able to assist you, call now. InventHelp is America's largest inventor service company with sales offices in more than 60 cities nationwide. Call InventHelp today for free information. Our clients made a financial gain with their invention, but this is just their individual result. Brian and Alice's experience is not typical, as only a very small number of inventions are licensed or sold in stores.
For your free inventors information, call 1-800-559-8567. That's 1-800-559-8567.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
The world is focused now on Brazil in the World Cup, but we found some soccer players in northern Iraq who play with as much heart as the best players in the world. This shootout is part of a 3-day soccer camp for young Syrian refugees and Iraqi children. Nearly 200 kids from ages 7 to 18 took part in the camp. Many of them escaped the fighting in Syria. Some have had family members killed in the more than 3-year civil war. It may not be the World Cup, but for these Syrian refugees and Iraqi children, this soccer tournament is even more important. Bobby Parks, founder of the Christian ministry More Than a Game, hosted the soccer camp.
What More Than a Game does, it basically uses the beautiful game of football. That's the universal language. We use it to reach refugees both in Tulsa, Oklahoma in the United States, and all around the world.
Parks found that most of the world speaks soccer.
You know, it could be the hills of Nepal or right here in the Middle East. It's amazing how a simple football, it could bring people together and unite people. We use football as an open door to say, you know what, we'll build relationships, we'll unite together around a passion for a game.
More Than a Game did the heavy lifting, but World Compassion pitched in. Jason Law says the desperate Iraqi crisis provides an opportunity for cooperation.
I think when the body works together in unity, it just naturally sends a message. But in the practical sense, we can always just do more. Two are always better than one. I'm not great at organizing a soccer camp, but Bobby Parks, More Than a Game, they are. So how can I help facilitate them coming in?
Their teamwork made the camp possible. The kids enjoyed the results, like 12-year-old Wadel, a refugee from the fighting in Syria.
گلک خوش بود یعنی امتحانات حتی ما تنها کردستانی وصل کنی و مروش کولو ندیدیم کلو خوش که نو زور اشتچ شان لگر ما کرد اما فری تو پانا کرد.
The tournament pitted teams in the same group against each other, from the younger ones to the older. The game wasn't always the best, but they played with all their hearts. When this game ended, it really looked like they won the World Cup. It was great fun to watch that last goal. You would have thought they did win the World Cup. And as a reminder, Christians in Iraq continue to ask Christians around the world to pray for the situation and for them during this crisis. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next week on Jerusalem Dateline.